This is episode 10. Welcome, fellow anglers, to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I am Captain Ryan Van Fleet, your host here in the Florida Keys. Each week I bring you fishing tips, interviews, gear reviews, and more to help you maximize your fishing trip, catch big fish, and overall have fun. Wow, this is my 10th episode. To be honest, I would have never thought I would be doing this. I've always been kind of quiet and a bit nervous and hesitant to speak in public, so this is a journey. I know it's a podcast, so you guys are not really sitting here with me, but still the same thought process and learning from me. So thank you, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. Now let's get started. As I mentioned before, my background before becoming a fishing guide was in the corporate manufacturing world, and it sucked. I did everything from clean machinery, lay people off, fix, or should I say, try to fix machines. And to be honest, I was often called into human resources because someone didn't like my tone. Yep, I was not a great employee either, nor was I a good manager. In fact, I was miserable. So my escape was to, on one of those tough days at work, I would sneak out for a long lunch, which I did quite often, and go to the local Barnes and Noble, and I grabbed a sport fishing magazine, found a quiet spot, grabbed a cup of coffee, and just sat down and started to read the magazines. I needed to calm down for a bit. I would look at the pictures of the fish, and it just seemed to make things right in my brain. And then on Friday nights, I'd really look forward to drinking some beer and watching Trev Barda's old show on the Outdoor Channel. And then I'd watch Trev Gowdy's Monster Fish that followed. It was my ritual. It was just something that I really enjoyed doing. It took me to another place, and I just dreamed of someday I would walk away from what I was doing and become a fishing guide. So what I do while I was watching the fishing shows, I'd cut out magazine articles, and then from the sports fishing magazines that I collected over time, and then put them in a binder. In fact, I still have that binder to this day. Now, even today, the saltwater magazines mean a lot to me. I subscribe to them all. I keep them around the house to look at. They'll help me if I need a mental break. Even if I've read the magazine 100 times, I still like to pick up the magazines, and I like to look at the photos, and I'll go through the articles again, just because I really don't watch a lot of YouTube crap, as I feel I don't need to watch some guy fishing. I fish every day when I can, so I don't need to watch some guy fishing and all that stuff and listen to the music. I like to pick up the magazines around the house, read them, look at the pictures. To me, that's old school stuff and how I was raised. So it brings me back to a time when fishing was just just one of those things for me. So anyway, it's hard to explain, but I'm not going to get into that. So with all the chaos in today's world, these magazines, they're a great escape for me, and they provide good tips still and tricks. And some of them I want to share with you guys, because believe it or not, there are some amazing articles out there that I've found in the magazines. So I'm going to go through some of the articles with you guys. And also, now I just want to let you guys know that I get a good laugh out of this, but and no, none of these articles involve ballyhoo rigging with circle hooks or stitching a Spanish mackerel to make it swim pretty for a marlin or a sailfish. Nor do they have to do with a new way to rig a ballyhoo or add like lure tape to a ballyhoo. Anyways, these are tried and proven methods. So if you're going to take anything away from this podcast today, you should really pay attention, because these are 3 of the best articles I believe that are out there today. Rigging article number 1. Now this one's been used for years by guys that meat fish for tunas using kites. In my opinion, this is the best kite fishing article that has been written so far in the 2000s. I have kept this one for many years, and in my show notes I'll put up the link to where you can find the reference. So if you're looking for the absolute best and easiest way to set up a kite fishing wind-on leader, then this article is for you. It was so number 1 on the list is the Guide to Wind-On Leaders. It was published in Saltwater Sportsman. The date was August 4th, 2014, as far as the issue goes. It was written by George Poveromo. And so the standard kite leader it's just way too long for my taste. And personally, I hate leadering fish by hand, which most guides do. My kites, my clients want to bring the sailfish right to the boat, and if conditions allow, I'll let them bring the fish into the boat for a picture from time to time if it's their first fish. I always encourage a sailfish to stay in the water and let me pull the hook out of his mouth and with a clean release. So the best thing with sailfish, personally, if you have a guy with a camera, get the jump because that's what it's all about, and then get the guy on video reeling in the fish. But that's another story for another time. Let's get on with the article. Um, so I also, like I said, I like to get the hooks out of the billfish's mouth, and I hate cutting the wind on leader at 30 foot from the boat and call it a catch just to rack up a release flag. That's not for me, nor is it for my clients. That's another topic for another time, like I said. So I held on to this issue for years, as I knew, when I was ready to start flying kites, that I would be using this setup. So George got the idea from Captain Bouncer, a longtime captain out of Miami. Most of you guys know who Bouncer is. So Miami captains are all about live bait fishing using kites all year round, more so than down here in the Keys. In the article, Bouncer tells the reader how he uses an 18-foot wind-on leader off a kite, and how his clients reel the fish to the boats without his first mate even touching the leader. So he uses a sliding kite float setup. It's a cool setup and works very well. The components include an egg sinker. Now the egg sinker is sized accordingly for the bait and the conditions. The egg sinker acts as a ballast to keep the small baits in the water, and then a bright colored float so you can see it, a small plastic rigging bead, and my favorite, the number 64 rubber band. Now the rubber band acts as a stopper. So the article goes on to say that when deploying the rig, you got to put the reel in free spool, engage the clicker, and hold the rubber band knot so you deploy the bait. The entire float and the weight setup should slide up the leader and stop at the knot, joining the double lines. Attach the fishing line above the leader to the kite clip. Hook the bait, pitch it out, and free spool the bait into position. Sounds pretty easy, right? Um, for the most part, it's pretty simple, but there's a lot of details that go into kite fishing. Remember, one thing to remember is that fish have fins and they love bubbles, especially the engine bubbles. So the best way to get a bait deployed is by powering the boat a little and getting the fish to swim away from the boat. So now, when a fish is hooked, the angler reels the fish to the boat without the captain having to grab the leader by hand. If you've ever tried to hand line a big wahoo using 40-pound, it's a pain in the ass. It can be a struggle. I can tell you that it's not easy. It's not an easy task. As stated in the article, the pressure against the rod tip forces the rubber band knot to slide down the leader along the float and the sinker. In a smooth and uniform motion, the 18-foot leader winds onto the reel, and the fish comes right to the boat. So it's a very good technique. I actually really love it, especially when I'm kite fishing off the patch reefs in the wintertime. Now, give it a try. If you're not already doing it, it works very well. At least it does for me. And then, always try to modify a little bit. That's what fishing's all about. If you think you have a better way to do it, then do it. And then if you do, reach out to me and let me know what you did, and then I can get you on the podcast as far as the tip goes if you're willing to share. So as the years went by with the articles, I found that the content was the same year after year. And then I found that some of the content was just plain silly stuff, kind of like false tips and opinions. Now, such articles, I see every year. Does noise attract fish? Does music attract fish? Does color matter? Every year, one magazine has to talk about noise and color. I think it's a filler. They run out of ideas and they just regurgitate stuff. So they got to do this to get lure companies to advertise with them, I guess, when they have to talk about noise and color. Does color matter? No, I don't know. Some days it does and some days it doesn't. So anyways, this leads me to my next favorite article. This one's the real deal, guys. So number 2, Trophy Blackfin Tuna Tactics in the Florida Keys, again by George Poveromo, saltwater sportsman. And you can refer back to my show notes of when the article was published and so forth. So you can, and then you'll have a link there because it is online. So I call this article "The Cat's Out of the Bag." Not a new technique by far, and I was actually taught this technique when I first started as a fishing mate. Now, in my opinion, it is the best way and to catch big tunas on the humps, or power drifting. So the article states that a guided marathon, he adds a 40-foot of 40-pound fluorocarbon top shot to a 20-pound fishing line with a Bristol knot. Connects it, the 40-pound to the 20-pound using a Bristol knot. At the business end of the top shot, he adds a small barrel swivel to alleviate line twists. Then a few feet of 30-pound fluorocarbon and either a 2.0 or 3.0 live bait hook. When deploying the bait, he adds a weight with a snap swivel. A 6-inch length of 20-pound mono is used to attach an egg sinker to the snap swivel for a quick sinker removal when the fish comes boat side. So the article continues, run up current of the hump far enough to deploy the two baits before drifting into neutral, and drift to a quarter-mile down current of the seamount. Now one bait's set down about 200 feet, and then the second bait is set down between 80 to 100 feet. So you're fishing with 2 rods when you're doing this, not 3, but only 2. One thing I do like about George's articles is that he actually fishes with the guide or the person, then he writes the article. If the trip is a success, he puts it on his TV show. Anyways, I really like this technique, but I'm not a fan of the 6-inch length of 20-pound mono to attach the egg sinker to the swivel. I really like to keep things real, so here it goes. I quit using this technique word for word because of the darn swivel and weight double line attachment. Instead, I set out on a mission to modify this technique based on freshwater, walleye, and catfish trolling techniques I used when I was growing up using inline removable trolling weights. So it took me a year and a lot of swear words, but I got it down and I tweaked it. I referred back to a lot of old freshwater magazine articles, walleye fishing magazine articles to exact, and then researched the gadgets, which led me to my next favorite rigging article. The number 3, Quick Remove Sinker, August 2018, Florida Sportsman Magazine by Trey Wheeler. I'm giving this article my number 3 spot, not because I'm quoted in it, but as I just mentioned, my trial and errors from tips in article number 2 led me to these tips that Florida Sportsman wrote about. In addition, Trey did an awesome job of writing this article, and we had a great day of fishing, man. We crushed the muttons and red groupers that day. So here it goes. A recent trip to Tavernier, I'm going to be quoting this. So basically reading it right from the magazine. So it goes on to say, a recent trip to Tavernier, I had the pleasure of targeting mutton snappers and groupers with Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Van Fleet showed me a solution to swinging weights on long leaders while fishing in 200 feet of water. His solution was a blue clip that he modified. The clip is produced by Balloon Fisher King, and it's a simple thumb press to attach and remove. Van Fleet drills a hole into the clip, slides a zip tie through it, and attaches the clip to the weight. The clip works on monofilament. Van Fleet uses braid on his main line, so the rig needs to be adjusted accordingly so that he could reel all the way down to the fish. He adds a small section of leader above the small swivel before his 20-foot long leader. The swivel prevents the clip from sliding down the leader, and it prevents line twists. Once the clip is removed, the swivel is small enough to reel through the guides, so you can reel the fish all the way to the boat. Simple. So this is truly my go-to setup for mutton and grouper fishing. There is no secrets here. I'm willing to share this with you guys. I only use this removable weight system when I bottom fish, and when I bottom fish. I never suspend a bait anymore using using this setup or small sinker. I use downriggers for staging baits higher up in the water column. It just works better for me and I catch more fish this way. I also found that fish love eating small weights higher up in the water column. So I only use removable weights when I bottom fish now and use downriggers for staging baits higher up in the water column off release clips. I like to read articles that have value and tell a good story. In my opinion, two of the best saltwater magazines out there are Florida Sportsman Magazine and Saltwater Sportsman. Now, both are different from each other, and neither seem to cross over. I do have a least favorite magazine I won't mention, but I put it in the bucket because it's full of ads and the content seems to be cookie cutter stuff. Sorry, not a fan. They just seem to be fishing in the same spots, doing the same articles. A lot of it's just regurgitated stuff and cookie cutter just to kick a magazine out. At least to me, that's what I see. So, anyways. Now, thank you guys for listening. If you have any feedback, comments, questions, or suggestions, I would like to hear from you. You can find me on Facebook at Good Karma Fishing Charters, Instagram at Good Karma Sport Fishing _FL_keys, or you can email me at goodkarmaryan@gmail.com. Now, please also share this podcast with a fellow angler and check out my website, goodkarmasportfishing.com. and sign up for my monthly newsletter. I aim to provide you with fishing tips and information so you can make the best out of your fishing time. Most important, just remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.